For Emma, the days of missing her husband, Jack, had become unbearable. He had enlisted in the military just after their wedding, leaving her to fend for herself in their small town. At first, Emma wrote to him every day, counting the weeks until his return. But as the months passed, loneliness crept in, and Emma found herself drawn to someone new. It started innocently. She met Daniel at a local coffee shop during one of her rare outings. He was kind, attentive, and a source of comfort she hadn't realized she needed. The conversations became more frequent, and soon, Daniel was the first person she thought of when she woke up and the last one on her mind before bed. One evening, as she sat on the porch, staring at the horizon, a text buzzed on her phone. It was from Jack. Asterisk, I'm coming home soon. Just a few more weeks. Asterisk, Emma's heart ached. She thought about the future they had planned, but deep down, she felt a growing guilt, knowing that in her heart, she was already emotionally lost to Daniel. The affair with Daniel continued in secret. They met whenever they could, never exchanging phone numbers or any identifiable markers. Emma told herself it was just a temporary escape, a moment of weakness, but the longer it lasted, the more she struggled with the lies. She kept the truth from Jack, hiding behind the facade of the loving wife, even as her emotional bond with Daniel deepened. When Jack finally returned, he could sense something had changed. The warmth between them felt strained, and Emma couldn't bring herself to look him in the eye for too long. Jack tried to ignore the subtle signs, convinced that the distance from the military had left him out of touch with their life at home. But one day, as Emma absentmindedly left her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter, Jack saw a message pop up from Daniel. Asterisk, can't wait to see you again. Asterisk, the betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. He had always been proud of his service, but now he felt as though his commitment to the military had cost him everything. As Emma walked into the room, Jack's silence spoke louder than any words he could say. Jack, Emma whispered, her voice cracking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen, but there was no explanation that could undo the damage. Emma had cheated, and the distance between them had widened far beyond what military service had done. This story reflects the complexities of relationships and the emotional challenges that can arise, particularly when one partner is absent for long periods. Emma stood there, her hands trembling as she watched Jack process the pain. His silence was more deafening than any outburst could have been. He hadn't expected this, hadn't prepared himself for the reality of his wife betraying him in the way she had. After all the sacrifices he made, after all the time spent away, this was the result. It hurt more than the exhaustion of long deployments, more than the loneliness of nights spent in foreign lands. Jack's eyes never left her, his gaze cold and piercing. How long, Emma? He asked, his voice low, controlled. Just a few months, she whispered, feeling the weight of her guilt pressing on her chest like a vice. It was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened. I never wanted to hurt you. The tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She knew it was too late for apologies, too late for regrets. Jack had always been the steady one, the rock in their relationship. But now, he was breaking, and she was helpless to stop it. Jack shook his head slowly. A mistake? He repeated. You call it a mistake? What about everything we built? What about our vows? What about me? His voice wavered with the hurt he was trying to suppress. I was gone because I had to be. I thought of you every second. I worked through the pain of not being home, because I thought we had something worth fighting for. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. And now I come home to this. You betrayed me, Emma. I didn't mean for it to happen, Emma pleaded, stepping closer to him. I never wanted to replace you. Jack cut her off, stepping back. You just let it happen. You let someone else in when you promised me you'd wait. You promised me you'd be faithful, that we'd be strong. But you gave up when I needed you the most. She could see the pain in his eyes, but it wasn't just sadness. There was anger there too, a deep-rooted anger that she couldn't erase, no matter how hard she tried. Jack had been trained to fight, to endure, but this was a battle he didn't know how to fight. The battlefield wasn't in some distant country. It was in his own home, in the woman he loved. "I don't know how to fix this, Jack," Emma whispered, her voice breaking. Jack finally looked away, his face contorting with emotion as he turned toward the door. "Maybe it can't be fixed," he said quietly. "Maybe it shouldn't be." Emma reached out, but he was already walking away, his footsteps heavy as he left the room. She sank to her knees, her heart breaking with the realization that the man she had married, the man who had stood by her through thick and thin, was slipping through her fingers. Days passed, and Jack kept his distance. He was polite, civil, but there was an unmistakable coldness between them. They no longer shared the intimacy they once had, and Emma felt like a stranger in her own home. She had tried to make amends, but Jack had retreated into himself, unable or unwilling to forgive her. It wasn't until a week later, when Jack was packing to leave for another deployment, that he spoke to her again. They stood in the living room, the air thick with tension. "I'm leaving, Emma," he said, his voice steady but distant. I don't know if I'll come back to this marriage. I don't know if I can, but I need to do what's best for me, for my own sanity." Emma felt her heart drop. She had always known military life meant uncertainty, but this was different. She had broken the one thing that had kept them tethered together. "Jack, please," she whispered. "Don't leave me. I'll do anything. I love you. I'll fight for us." Jack paused, his hand on the door handle. He turned slowly to face her, his eyes unreadable. "You fought for a lot of things, Emma, but you didn't fight for us." His voice cracked, betraying the hurt he had kept locked away. "And I don't know if I can fight for a relationship that you've already given up on." With that, he walked out the door, leaving Emma standing in the ruins of her choices, unable to undo the damage. As the days turned into weeks, Emma realized that the most painful part of it all wasn't just losing Jack. It was knowing that she had lost him without ever really fighting for him. And as the echo of his footsteps faded into the distance, so did the hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a way to rebuild what they once had.